CBS News. CEO David Ellison welcomed Weiss to the organization. In a press release, he wrote, "I am confident her entrepreneurial drive and editorial vision will invigorate CBS News." Weiss founded the Free Press in 2021 after resigning from the New York Times in 2020. In her resignation letter, Weiss cited discrimination and a hostile work environment. The journalist also criticized the paper's editorial policies. She wrote at the time, quote, "Stories are chosen and told in a way to satisfy the narrowest of audiences, rather than to allow a curious public to read about the world and then draw their own conclusions." In a statement today, Weiss called the new agreement a testament to the vision of Paramount's new leaders. Joining us to unpack the move is Curtis Hook, managing editor of MRC's Newsbusters. So Weiss started the Free Press 5 years ago, as you already know, after resigning as an op-ed writer for the New York Times. Can I ask you this? What is Weiss best known for, and how could her values impact CBS News?
Yeah, so once she left the New York Times after what she felt was a sustained bullying campaign against her and other Jewish staffers at the New York Times, and also the uproar that a lot of viewers may recall in the summer of 2020 when the New York Times had published an op-ed from Tom Cotton saying that the National Guard should be sent into major American cities to help quell unrest, something very familiar to what we've been dealing with in the country the last few months. And that caused such a huge uproar, and Weiss defended it, the right to publish that and hear different opinions, but the New York Times staff didn't want to hear it. So she launched a site called the Free Press, as we've alluded to here, and it was a series of, and it still is, a series of thought-provoking journalists from across the political spectrum engaging in investigative journalism, cultural reviews, movie reviews, columns talking about free speech, discourse, foreign policy, covering the real gambit. But the premise being that they are a center left to center right publication, because that is where they believe that the American public largely exists. And, you know, Barry Weiss, I think, is such a welcome breath of fresh air to CBS because it is such an iconic brand in the country's zeitgeist, especially for a lot of older Americans. And through years of mismanagement, ethical scandals, they've been in the dumps for quite a long time. And so Barry Weiss, I think, is the right person to bring them back to the forefront because she believes at its most fundamental core, journalism should be about educating the public, causing the public to think, well, not telling them, you know, necessarily what they should think or think about. And I think that just level of freedom and trust of the readership of the American public is why she's such a good pick.
Okay, Curtis, let me ask you this. You know, CBS News has been accused of bias before. And just this summer, right, Paramount settled a lawsuit with President Trump for $16 million. And this was over a 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris, where two different portions of her responses were aired. What kind of reputation does CBS News have with viewers?
Well, with a lot of Americans, it's not trusted. You go back to 2004 and Dan Rather fabricating documents about George W. Bush and his time in the National Guard in the Vietnam War era. And it's gone on since then. I mean, their shows are in third place, well behind ABC and CBS, or ABC and NBC, on both the morning and evening newscasts. It is cycled through co-hosts on all of those shows. Face the Nation's Margaret Brennan has become a meme on the right after her debate performance in the vice presidential debate and some interviews with Vice President J.D. Vance. The Sunday show, Sunday Morning, another one, is very highbrow liberal elitism. Same with 60 Minutes as well. It is not a news outlet that I would say is trusted by a lot of Americans. A Gallup poll came out last week about trust in the media, and it found that only 28% of Americans trust the media writ large to be able to tell the truth. And 7 in 10 said they either had no trust or not very much trust. And CBS is part of that as well. It's an arrogance and a series of self-inflicted scandals over the many decades, you know, basically in the late 20th century and early 21st century, that has led them and landed them in this position. Not anything that we at the Media Research Center have done by just simply quoting back and studying how much time they spend on stories, or not at all. But I think Weiss definitely brings a level of sobriety to the network And she sent an email to staff that I encourage people to check out. It's 10 points about what journalism should be. It should be required reading and something that everyone should have to agree to.
So the backdrop here, Curtis, is that the deal for Skydance Media, to buy Paramount Global closed in August, and just ahead of that, Skydance promised after the merger it's going to do a comprehensive review of CBS. So, I mean, given that, what are your thoughts on the timing of this Weiss announcement?
Yeah, I mean, the Ellison family means business. I mean, it's really that simple. When they decided to purchase Paramount, Skydance was a media company mostly known for movies. They decided to enter into having a streaming platform, Paramount Plus, to bring its video library to, and all of the live sports that come with that, the NFL on CBS, the Masters, March Madness. Now they have a deal for UFC, so they'll likely be broadcasting the matches on the 4th of July on the South Lawn of the White House. But CBS News is obviously part of that as well. And the Ellison family understands that the trust in media is not only something that they can no longer be ignored, but it's not something to lash out at Americans about. It is something that they can address and that they are concerned about addressing. I think that's a huge misnomer with a lot of business types and conservatives as well, which is that we don't want a strong, vibrant, independent media in this country. We certainly do, because what makes us different than authoritarian countries around the globe. And so by doing this, the Ellison family, David Ellison, Larry Ellison, are showing that they're willing to invest in CBS News, a global, again, iconic brand, and bring someone in like Barry Weiss, who is contrarian, who I guess would be able to turn over some tables of stale, liberal, largely white and boring ideas that have not really served CBS or the American public well, and to maybe create a news organization, bring back a news organization that can represent all Americans. It seems like such a simple premise, but it is going to be an uphill battle for her.
How do you think this move could impact potentially the overall news industry?
Yeah, I think if we are able to have a major broadcast network that all Americans can trust to and turn to and feel like their views are represented and people care about them, that is a net positive for the country. Because you have to remember, ABC, CBS, NBC, you can still get via the old rabbit ears at your house. You don't have to subscribe to Xfinity or Cox to be able to pick up your local network affiliate, no matter where you are in the country. So if you have CBS being trusted by Americans again, knowing that they're going to cover a wide variety of stories and they're not going to insult your intelligence, and that they are going to let the facts go where they will, where they may be, and willing to hold both parties equally to account, I think that would be such a positive thing for the country. It is an uphill battle for Barry Weiss. She has a lot of, again, entrenched longtime CBS employees who are going to be resistant to this idea, but I think she can definitely do it. And this would be a tremendous thing for America if we had a trusted network. Again, conservatives should not think this is going to suddenly become Fox News, because, conservative media is their own brand, and Barry Weiss is not MAGA by any stretch, but she is just someone who is not stuck in the muck of progressive, blinded, mindset where she walks around and not willing to consider other opinions.
Okay, Curtis, let me just ask you one more question. If you can point to one thing among everything that Americans look for in the news, what would it be?
Yeah, I think, can a news story answer the basic questions of who, what, where, when, why, and how? If you can't answer those things, if you leave certain facts out, you leave out a political party, if there's a political scandal afoot, those kinds of things, then the story kind of falls apart. All news stories should be able to answer the most basic facts and provide proper context and perspective and balance in its sound bites and transparency on the part of reporters. Then, that's a recipe for success, especially at a major news organization like this with resources and people stationed all around the globe. I think this is going to be a really positive experiment here, and Barry Weiss is the person to do this if she is given the right responsibilities to reform and maybe bring in new voices and maybe let some contract slaps of people who were on their way out, people who aren't willing to get on board, to bring in more voices. There are people at CBS, I will say, that I think would be committed to this. So this is not a tear down to the studs kind of mission for her at CBS.
Well, okay, Curtis, really a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Chicago Police Superintendent is holding a